Made while questions asked by court and counsel touching upon your qualifications to serve as a trial juror in the case now on trial. So help you God.
Thank you. Please be seated. We are now going to begin the jury selection process. You are going to be asked a number of questions, both in this courtroom, and some of you will also complete a juror questionnaire. These questions are not intended to pry unnecessarily into your personal lives or affairs. I hope they do not do so. It is necessary to ask you these questions to determine if you can sit as a fair and impartial juror in this case. Please do not withhold information in order to be seated on this jury. Just be honest and candid when responding to the questions. When you came into the courtroom this morning, you were given a juror number. For purposes of jury selection, you will be identified by that number. This helps to protect your privacy. Everything said during jury selection will be taken down verbatim by the court reporter seated in front of me. It is important that we attribute your statements to you. So if I do not state your juror number aloud before you speak, I'm going to ask that you do so. I will be asking questions of the entire panel. If your answer is no, you need do nothing. If your answer is yes, or you have some other information to provide, please raise your hand and I will call on you individually. If your response to a question will require you to give information that you would prefer to provide privately, please let me know that you would like to speak privately and I will arrange a time for you to do that. If at any time you cannot see or hear something you should be hearing or seeing, please raise your hand and let me know. We will take a break in about 1 hour. If you need a break before that, please raise your hand and let me know. Is there anyone who cannot currently hear me? Anyone who cannot hear me? Anyone have difficulty hearing? We do have some headphones for those of you who may have difficulty hearing. All right, we do have one. We'll get those for you. Because of the acoustics in the courtroom, it is necessary for us to use a microphone for everyone seated behind the bar in the back of the courtroom. I'm going to also ask that in addition to using the microphone, that you stand when responding to a question. Those of you seated up in the front, I believe we should be able to hear you. We ask that you speak as loudly as you possibly can. Any questions so far? Is there anyone here who does not speak English? Anyone who does not speak English? I see no hands. All right, the jury selection process for this case is going to be in phases. This is the first phase of jury selection. We're going to ask you a number of questions this morning. If you are not excused, then we will ask that you go downstairs and complete a jury questionnaire. At that time, you will be given a piece of paper containing a date and a time for you to return for small group questioning. If you are not excused at that point, we will give you another piece of paper that tells you the date and time when you should return, and at that time you will be informed if you have been selected as a juror for this case. I'm going to begin today by introducing court staff to you. The bailiff for this division is Randy Collins. He is standing in the middle of the courtroom. He brought you upstairs this morning. The judicial assistant is Janet Wheelhouse. She's standing next to him. She will sometimes function as a bailiff as well. The court clerk for this division is Kelly Schermerhorn. She's seated to my left. Her job is to swear in juries, witnesses, and take care of other court-related paperwork, including the exhibits. The court reporter for this division is Marla Arnold. She's seated in front of me. My name is Sherry Stevens, and I am the judge for this division. Do any of you know me or any member of the court staff? Do any of you know any of us? If so, please raise your hand. I see no hands. The state in this matter is represented by Juan Martinez. Mr. Martinez is now standing. Mr. Martinez is employed by the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Do any of you know Mr. Martinez? I see no hands. Mr. Martinez, would you please introduce the gentleman seated at council table?
Good morning. Sitting with me throughout the trial will be Detective Esteban Flores of the Mesa Police Department. Also sitting at council table will be Robert Schutz. He is with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
All right.
Judge?
Yes.
Move her right over here so she can hear a little bit.
All right. Thank you. Please come forward. All right, juror 394, is that correct?
Yes.
If you cannot hear, will you please raise your hand and let me know?
I will do that.
Thank you. All right. Do any of you know Detective Flores? I see no hands. Do any of you know Mr. Schutz? I see no hands. Thank you. You may be seated. Defendant in this matter is represented by Kirk Nurmi and Jennifer Wilmot. They are both standing. Do any of you know Mr. Nurmi? Do any of you know Mr. Nurmi? I see no hands. Do any of you know Ms. Wilmot? I see no hands. Mr. Nurmi, would you please introduce your client to the jury panel, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Wilmot and I represent Jodi Arias.
Do any of you know Ms. Arias? Personally? Yes. Do you personally know her? I see no hands. Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Nurmi?
Yes, Your Honor, along with the defense team is mitigation specialist Maria De La Rosa. She also represents.
Do any of you know Ms. De La Rosa? I see no hands. Thank you. You may be seated. This case has received extensive media coverage. Have any of you seen, read, or heard about this case in the media? If so, please raise your hand. I see many hands. All right, if you are selected as a juror in this case, you will be advised that you must decide this case only on the evidence presented in this courtroom, and you must apply the law given to you in the jury instructions. The evidence means the testimony of the witnesses who come into this courtroom and testify, and the exhibits admitted during the trial. Is there anyone who could not decide this case only on the evidence and law presented in this courtroom? All right. So, to clarify, I see a number of hands and we're going to go around. I'm going to speak to each of you who have raised your hand. Those of you who have raised your hand, what I need to know from you is if you can set aside what you may have read, seen, or heard about this case and decide this case only on the evidence you hear in this courtroom and the law that you were provided at the end of the trial. So that's the question I have for you. Let's start over here. If you believe that you cannot set aside what you have read, seen, or heard in the media, please raise your hand and let me know who you are. Number 306. Tell us about that, please.
I just already have strong beliefs about the case. I followed it previously. I mean, not extensively, but I did follow it, and so I already have strong beliefs about. Yeah.
So you believe that you could not set aside those feelings and opinions and decide this case only on the evidence you hear in the courtroom?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Who else? If you could actually put your card up, that would be most helpful to me. Number 313.
I followed the case fairly extensively in the media, and I feel strongly that the verdict was set down and that it should have been decided at that point. And I strongly believe in the death penalty. So that's my opinion.
All right. So do you believe that you could set aside your personal?
No.
You cannot. You've made up your mind, and that's that.
I have.
All right, thank you. All right, number 309.
I don't think I could do this either.
All right, so you believe that you cannot decide this case only on the evidence and law you hear in this courtroom. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. 319.
I followed the case extensively while it was happening, and like everyone else, I really don't think that we all should be here, and I can't set aside what I already know and how I feel.
Thank you. Number 317.
I feel the same way regarding putting my personal opinions. You know, I followed the trial extensively, and I believe that the verdict that was set first should be it, and I too believe in the death penalty.
Thank you. Number 318.
I believe also that she's guilty, and I believe in the death penalty.
Well, sir, that's not the question. The question is whether or not you can come into this courtroom and listen to the evidence and decide the case based on the evidence you hear in the courtroom and not on what you heard, read in the media.
No, I cannot.
You cannot do that. So you believe that what you've read, seen, and heard in the media would affect your ability to be impartial. Thank you. All right, 322.
I work for a company called Justice Tracks, and we do evidence tracking software. And it's a strong likelihood that some of the evidence is actually in our system. And so if there's any question as to the validity of that, I would be biased.
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else on this side? Go to the back, 332. Hold on just one moment, and please stand and use the microphone. Thank you.
I had made up my mind a long time ago that she was guilty, so there's really no change in my opinion on that.
Well, if you're selected as a juror, you will be told that you must accept the jury's verdict of guilt. That's not the issue. This is a penalty trial. So the issue is whether you can decide the issue of penalty based only on the evidence you hear in this courtroom.
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Just what juror number was that?
332. All right, 330.
I don't believe that I could be impartial in this at all. I've read too much of it in the paper. We've discussed it extensively at work, back and forth. There's just no way. I'm too influenced on her already.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's see who else. 357.
Yes, I cannot change my mind once I make my mind up. It cannot be changed. So that's the way I felt. And I knew, I had a feeling this was going to be for her. So I already knew in my mind that I can't change.
So you're saying that you've already made up your mind and you cannot change your mind?
No.
All right, thank you. Number 337.
My exposure to the media coverage of this would not allow me to be an impartial judge.
Thank you. 359.
I personally know two people that have been with this trial from the beginning, so I just don't think I should be a part of it.
You know people who have been part of the trial. What do you mean by that?
One person did all of the blood at the house and everything, and the other one works for Mesa PD as a homicide detective.
So you're saying that you have information from those sources, and because of that, you feel you cannot be fair and impartial? Is that yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. 356.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I had heard so much of the trial and read a lot of newspaper, and I don't think I can be impartial on that.
Thank you very much. Who else on this side? 338.
Thank you. I have formed a very strong personal opinion about this case, and I'm not convinced that I could honestly serve as an impartial.
So, Juror 338, do you believe that you cannot set aside your personal opinions and the information you already have about this case and decide this case only on the evidence you hear in this courtroom? Yes. Thank you. All right, number 339.
I watch this trial every day on my computer, all the penalty phase, everything. I have a very strong opinion of what that verdict should have been, and I feel like I should not be on this jury.
All right, thank you. Who else on this side of the courtroom? No other hands. Let's move over here. Number 367.
I followed this case extensively, and there's no way I could be impartial. There's just no way I'm too
Thank you, sir.
pro.
374, right behind you.
I too have followed the case, and I don't think that I could do this, and it's a moral standard with me.
Thank you. 383.
I don't believe I could do this. It goes against some of my morals and values. We followed the case.
So, sir, you did follow the case? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we did. And
Do you believe you could separate what you hear in this courtroom from what you already know about the case?
No.
I'm sorry, sir?
No, I don't believe so.
Thank you. 381.
I too have followed the case and also done research through news and websites, and feel that I would not be able to be impartial.
Thank you, sir. Number 400.
I followed the case in detail, but having immigrated here 27 years ago from South Africa, I believe there's only one penalty for murder. And I obviously would not be impartial in this case.
All right, so, sir, you do not feel you can be fair and impartial? And is that because you cannot separate your personal opinions from the evidence you hear in this case?
Personal opinion is that there's only one decision that can be reached. There's no choice.
Thank you, sir. All right, who else on this side? 372.
I didn't follow it extensively, but I feel like discussions I've had, I feel like I wouldn't be able to separate my feelings or what I already know to make an impartial decision.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? 366.
I have followed this relatively, and I feel that I wouldn't be able to separate my discussions and my personal feelings toward the case to give an impartial opinion on it.
So you could not base a verdict only on the evidence you hear in this courtroom, is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. There was another 302.
I was thinking that I could do this, but I really don't think that I can. I can't set aside what I know already, and I'd like to think I could do it, but I don't think I can.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'm going to turn on some white noise. That white noise is intended to allow me to speak privately with the attorneys here at the bench. The court reporter will be making a record of what we say here at the bench. If you are talking, then she cannot hear us here at the bench. So I'm going to ask that you not talk among yourselves while we are at the bench, and we will be with you shortly. Thank you for your patience. Counsel, approach.
I'm going to read the numbers. Should be excused. If you disagree with anything, let me know.
Do you want me to interject if you're going in order, or you want me to go back?
Just let me know if you have an objection. No.
Oh,
Right at that moment. Just, I say a number.
No, I meant numbers if you skip them.
No, until the end. Yeah.
Okay.
306.
No objection.
313. 309. 17, 318, 322, 330, 357, 337, 359, 356, 338, 339, 331, 367, 374, 383, 381,
81.
381, 400, 372, 366.
No objections.
Anyone else?
311. Case should have been decided, believes in the death penalty, said he couldn't be fair and impartial. Oh, what did I get?
Yeah.
Jennifer tells me it was 313, so my apologies. 359. He said he knew people that worked on the case.
359 is
Okay. We have 338.
Yes.
And I believe that's it, unless Jennifer has any others.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'm going to be excusing some of you from further participating in the jury selection process for this case. I'm going to read the numbers of the jurors to be excused. Please remain seated until I have called the number of all jurors to be excused, and then I will give you further instructions. Juror 306, 313, 309, 319, 317, 318, 322, 332, 330, 357, 337, 359, 356, 338, 339, 367, 374, 383, 381, 400, 372, 366, and 302. You are excused. Thank you for being here. Please exit out the back of the courtroom and give the bailiff your juror number and your trial schedule. Yes, sir. Your number, please. Your number? Number 344. Yes, sir.
I speak English, but I don't too much good understand.
So you speak English, but you have difficulty understanding.
And
All right. Counsel, approach, please. Other than your standing objection, any objections?
No, Your Honor, I didn't hear it. 344?
340. I think that's right, 344.
Okay.
Juror 344, you are. Thank you for being here. Juror 391.
I have the same problem.
All right, so sir, you understand English or you speak some English, but you are having difficulty understanding the proceedings.
Language line, yeah.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, please approach. Other than your standing objection, any objection?
Oh, yeah.
There's no objection.
Yeah, I don't think she's got something different. Juror 391, you are excused. Thank you for being here. All right, Juror 360.
I speak English, but I don't understand the concept of judging or anything like that. I have no idea what's going on in a courtroom.
All right. Are you able to understand the words that we have said this morning?
Probably like 30% I understand, but not everything.
All right, thank you. Counsel, please approach. Other than your standing objection, any objection?
I didn't really understand. She said she understood English, so I'd like to question maybe individually or a little more extensively because I didn't really understand what her issue was because she said she spoke English. So
She said she only understood about 30% of what was said.
okay, then I'll have no objection.
Okay. Juror 360, you're excused. Thank you for being here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this jury will not be sequestered. What that means is if you are selected as a juror, we will not ask you to pack a suitcase and move into a hotel for the duration of the trial. There are many reasons we don't sequester juries in Maricopa County. It hasn't been done since the 70s. One of the most important reasons is that we have learned that otherwise qualified jurors will not sit if they have to leave their friends and family for a prolonged period of time. In a case like this, where there is extensive media coverage, then we're going to ask that you avoid all media coverage because we cannot sequester you and limit what you do and do not read in the media. So what that means is this. We're going to ask that you not watch any news programs, that if you watch television programs, that you record them and fast forward through the commercials to avoid any media coverage of the trial that may occur during commercial breaks. We're going to ask that you not read the newspaper or any other periodicals until you have brought them in and the bailiff has had an opportunity to remove any articles about the case. In addition, we're going to ask that you limit your contact with social media. In other words, that you not participate in Facebook, Twitter, instant messaging, any kind of social media where you might have exposure to the facts of this case or the trial while you are on this jury. And lastly, if you're selected as a juror, we're going to give you an admonition. And that admonition will tell you that you cannot talk to anyone about this case, you cannot allow anyone to talk to you about this case, and you cannot do any research about this case while you are on the jury. What you will be permitted to do is to tell people that you're on a jury and that it is a long trial and that you will be involved in this case through December. But you can't discuss anything else about this case with your friends or family, coworkers, anyone. So those are some of the rules that you would have to follow if you were selected as a juror on this case. I know that's a lot of information. I'm going to ask that you let us know right now if you think you would have difficulty following those rules. And if you have a chance to think about it and you change your mind, you can still let us know later on in the jury selection process. But sitting here right now, do any of you think you would have difficulty following any of the rules that I just explained? All right, let's start up here. Anyone up here feel that you would have difficulty following those rules? See no cards. In the back, number 349.
Thank you, Judge. I'm in daily contact with Gannett, Arizona Republic, and I work in the SEO and SEM world, so what you're asking of me is not going to be able to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, number 343, all the way down at the end.
Your Honor, I just need some clarification. When you said Facebook, I'm in a Bible study that has a private Facebook group. We don't discuss current events, but it is part of a study that I'm in right now that I do need to continue with. So is that considered against the rules?
No. As long as there will be no possibility that you could have any exposure to anything about this case, then you're fine. And it is not a perfect world, and it may very well be that at some point you are exposed to something. You need to immediately report that to the bailiff, who will let me know. But as long as current events are not discussed on this particular loop, then you should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 327.
Hi, Your Honor. I manage a global account. I have team members around the world, and I would be unable to go without news for this duration.
All right, thank you very much. All right, 365.
Your Honor, I'm involved in the social media, so I'm a lot of the news clipping services, and my responsibility is to communicate that out to my team across the world.
Thank you. All right, number 351.
Your Honor, I think it would create quite...
I'm sorry, it's...
Your Honor, as far as my job goes, I didn't realize this would be going through December. It would create quite a burden.
Okay, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. My question right now is whether or not you could follow the limitations with regard to media coverage of the trial, avoid talking to your friends and family members about the trial, and avoid social media as well.
No problem there.
Okay, thank you. Number 353.
353. I am a student at Arizona State, and I'm a member of a couple of groups, both student groups as well as groups in classrooms, and we do a lot of our talking through Facebook. And I'm also in a class that where I have to research current articles. Although they're not related to this case, I am required to go on to certain news sites that may lead to me seeing articles about this case.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side of the courtroom? Number 340.
Yes, I don't think I can be able to do it due to my job and my family.
All right, so you believe that you could not follow the court's orders with regard to avoiding media information about this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Who else on this side? All right, let's move over here, 369.
I have a side business that is based around Facebook. I have to be connected to it in order to get to my other website that's connected to it. So, and all of my business is through Facebook, and I wouldn't be able to stay away from it.
So in that regard, do you believe you would be exposed to media articles? Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, 373.
I work for Aetna, and part of our work often we often use the internet, and I'm not sure if I can avoid the media coverage of it. Plus I often like to check up on the news, world news and such, and I would find it hard to avoid it.
Thank you, sir. 399.
Well, I don't have a employment function that would keep me limited from seeing the information about this case. I am a consumer of the information, and I can't say that I would genuinely be able to avoid it. It hadn't interested me before, but I can't say I would be able to avoid it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Number 362 on the other side, Randy.
Just a clarifying question. For my job, I'm often on the internet, but if I'm just going to a specific site to look up technical information, I don't feel that I would find the media attention there, but I just want to confirm that that would be okay.
That would be okay, as long as there's no possibility that you're going to be seeing current events reported there. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, one more time. Counsel, please approach. 349, any objection? Works for Gannett. Works with Gannett, excuse me. 327, cannot avoid news.
No objection.
365.
No objection.
353 is the ASU student who has to research current events.
No objection.
340, but she can't avoid the news. 369, needs to use Facebook for her
Yes, sir.
business.
No objection.
373 works for uses the internet for business. Any objection?
373.
373.
No objection.
And 399 said he cannot avoid the media.
No objection.
I don't have an objection here.
Okay. Anyone else?
I didn't.
Did you say 340? No.
I did.
Okay.
I'm going to be excusing some additional jurors from participating in the jury selection process for this case. Same procedure. I'm going to call the numbers. Please remain seated. The following jurors are excused: 349, 327, 365, 353, 340, 369, 373, and 399. Thank you for being here. Please exit out the back of the courtroom and give the bailiff your juror number. Yes, number 397.
And I can speak English, but I don't understand the law, the enforcement terminology, so I don't think I should part in here.
Well, you don't need to understand the law. We are going to give you the law in written jury instructions as long as you can understand English well enough to understand what's happening. Have you understood everything we've discussed this morning?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
Yeah, and because of this case, I think if it was a long time happened already, then, and I really have my personal opinion already, so, and I don't think so I will change in my mind.
All right, I'm having difficulty hearing you. I think what you said is that you were concerned about the length of the trial. Is that correct? And your ability to focus on it for a long period of time?
Yeah, I cannot stay too long because I don't think I can understand well for the kind of terminologies.
You're concerned about understanding terminology. Yeah. Okay. Is that correct? Yes? Approach, please. Any objection to 397?
I do at this point. She said she understands English. She said she has issues with some of the terminology or understanding the laws. I don't think she said she can't understand English. I don't really understand what she feels like she can't understand other than the law that you pointed out she didn't need to understand. So I think without further clarification.
It's clear to me that she didn't understand what was being said to her.
She hesitated when responding to me. She didn't seem to understand even my question, but all right, I'll allow her, we'll have her remain behind and you can question her individually. Right.
Oh, sorry. 349 for the media issue?
No. Yes, no, he's gone. 349's gone.
Oh, maybe that, okay. I can't hear you very well, I'm sorry. It's not you.
They have been in here 5 times to try to fix these microphones.
Well, I wrote down 341. I'm guessing you said 349.
349.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Now I'm going to tell you something about the schedule for the trial. You were each given a copy of a calendar for the months of October, November, and December of 2014. On this calendar, it indicates the dates that you will need to be here. Those dates are marked by the word trial. So where you see the word trial, those are days you need to be here. Typically, if you're selected as a juror, you will need to be here Monday through Thursday from 9:30 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon. There is no trial on Friday. There will be a lunch break each day from approximately noon to 1:30, and there's a 15-minute break in the morning and in the afternoon. There are some days when we will not have trial, and those are marked clearly on your calendar. With that schedule in mind, is there anyone who could not sit as a juror if you were selected because of a conflict you have with the trial schedule? Raise your hands. All right, before I take your responses to that question, I will advise you that Arizona law provides that a juror may be excused only if his or her absence from work would tend to materially or adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, or if service as a juror would pose an undue hardship on that juror. So that is the standard I will apply to your request to be excused because of the trial schedule. All right, so let's start over here when the jury who has a problem with the schedule. All right, number 310.
I can't. I work every day. We've got an employee that quit recently. There's only 2 of us in the office now. I work for a physician. I'm the back office. We had to cancel all the patients today because I'm here. It would be a real hardship for them to have to try and work this schedule without me being there.
So there's no way that there could be someone hired to replace you while you were here?
Not like the time, no. Not to do the back office.
Okay. Having said that, I believe the jury commissioner explained the long-term jury fund to you. The long-term jury fund does apply to this case. What that means is, for those of you who are employed, either self-employed, work on commission, or your employer does not pay for jury service, you will be reimbursed what you would ordinarily make on the day that you were here for trial. If you have any questions about how that will apply to your particular circumstance, I'm going to ask that you speak to the jury commissioner downstairs. They have their own rules and procedures, and I don't want to commit them to paying you without their input. So if you have any concern about your income being affected by the trial, let me know what that concern is, and I will most likely direct you to speak to the jury commissioner. Any questions about the long-term jury fund? Yes, ma'am. Your number, please. 343. Yes, you may, but we'll wait for you to return. 392.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to you about the duration of the trial, please.
Okay, we're going to get to you just momentarily. We're going to talk to all of you. We're going to give everyone an opportunity to be heard. 393. Yes, sir. We'll give you a chance to do that. 397.
Oh, okay. I already planning. I need to travel in November 1st out the country, so I can stay.
We're going to talk about that momentarily. I'm going to start over here, so as soon as the juror who just left returns, then we will continue with jury selection. Everyone will get an opportunity to tell me about your issue. Yes. All right, that juror has returned. So let's start over here. If you have a problem with the trial schedule, 311.
Between work and school, I wouldn't be able to commit to this type of schedule. I go back to school November 17th from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., and then I go to work right after that.
All right, so you're a full-time student?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Who else? 312.
At my work right now, I had the guy who assisted me that his wife gonna have a baby, and then he's gonna take off from the 27th through December.
October 27th
Yes.
through December?
Yes.
All right, and what does that mean to you?
It means that if from him and I, if he's there, I'm gonna be off. If I'm there, he's gonna be off.
Is there anyone else to do this job if the two of you are not available?
Not really.
Okay, thank you. 314.
I have two issues. I'm the sole supporter of my family, and the time off would be a big burden. In my business, there's only two of us that do my job, and there's nobody else that, like even today, they were hoping I would be able to come back before, but I told them to count me out for today, but I cannot be off for that long, that length of time.
And what do you do?
I'm work for a automotive company, and there's only two of us in the office.
Okay, thank you. Who else on 320?
Right now, I'm tentatively scheduled to be out of town from October 16th to the 20th for work. I could find a backup, but I would need to know sooner than later.
October 16 through 20.
Yeah.
So you believe you could find someone to go in your place?
I may be able to, yeah.
Yes. All right, so then I'm going to leave you on for now, and if you find out that you cannot do that, then you need to let us know. All right? Thank you. 321.
I also start school in November, so it's going to be really difficult with my full-time school schedule and my means of transportation here. It was difficult just getting here today.
Thank you. Number 324.
Hi, I work from 7 to 4:30, and I do have a part-time helper, but he is a high school student, so he only comes in from 1 to 4:30, and I'm there from 7 to 4:30. So I think it would be difficult, and that is my only job, and I'm also a part-time student, so that's
What kind of business do you
I work
work
at an
in?
engineering company. It's a small business in Chandler. So.
Thank you. 325.
I need to have surgery. I'm scheduled to have an appointment with the surgeon Friday. I don't know when it's going to be, but I'm hoping it will be before January.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? On this side, let's go to the back. 331.
Hello. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 5, so with my husband's schedule, he never knows when he's out of town or when he's in town, so that would take a big toll on our family if he had to take the time off and the time days. And also on December 8th, that whole week, we are in Florida.
Okay, thank you. 341.
Your Honor, I have a planned trip out of the country the week of November 17th, a non-refundable trip. It's my wife and I's 30th wedding anniversary.
I'm sorry, the last part.
And I, 30th wedding anniversary, a planned trip out of the country the week of November 17th.
All right, thank you, congratulations. All right, 341, let's go to 351.
Your Honor, this would create quite a burden on my fellow worker. We'd have to get the billing out once a week, and it would be impossible for one person to do it.
All right, is it possible that you could do what you need to do on Fridays, or is it something that happens during the...
About 2.5 days of each week to get the billing done.
Is there anyone else who could do that job on your behalf while you were on jury duty?
I honestly don't think so. I could look into it. Is that a possibility?
Yes, if you believe that you could find someone to replace you, and you do not believe that it would be a burden, then you could let us know next week. Is that what you would like to do?
Yes,
All
I
right.
will look into it.
Thank you. 346.
I'm a new real estate agent, and that would adversely affect my income as well as my husband travels out of state. He's not here right now. I'm responsible for a young child that can't get to and from school independently.
Thank you. 361.
Hi, I work as a research engineer for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and as such as I manage research projects, and I have people depend on me. Okay, and it would be just impossible for me to keep up with the timetables that we have in terms of deliverables. With me taking this much time out, it's just impossible.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on this side of the courtroom? Number 355.
My husband is having surgery on the 10th of this month, and it's a serious surgery. I'll need to care for him at least for the week afterward.
So his surgery is October 10th, did you say?
That's correct.
And you would need to care for him through the weekend?
Through the week, I believe, afterward. He said.
All right. So if the trial did not start until October 20th and you did not need to return during the week of the 13th, would you be able to serve?
Possibly, probably. It will just depend on how he does.
Okay. Thank you. 343.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm a caregiver for a special needs child, and I do not know if they would be able to find someone else to care for him if I was here. So it's something I'd have to check on.
Do you want an opportunity to do that and report back to us, or do you believe it's going to be impossible for that to happen?
I just want you to know that it might, and it might not.
Okay, thank you. 362.
We do not have to be here on the 14th, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, on this side. All right, 376.
I have a job that, oh, I'm sorry. I have a job that I'm the only one doing it. I will be required to work after hours during the evenings to make up that work if I am sitting on the jury. And I think after a period of time, that may wear me out.
Okay, thank you, sir. 385. Thank you.
385. Ma'am, I own a small fur
alarm and security company that's 24 hours, and it would be a burden, labor burden for my employees.
All right, so I just want to understand your concern. Your concern is that you work around the clock, is that correct?
We have put in long hours, 18 to 20 hours sometimes a day. So I wouldn't be able to take care of payroll and so forth, those kind of things.
All right, thank you, sir. 382.
384?
Okay,
Your Honor,
384, go right ahead.
I have a question. Will
Yes.
I need to be here on the 16th?
No.
I'm good then.
Okay, thank you. 382.
I'm a hospital worker and I travel the whole valley and I don't have anyone to replace me, so I can't do it.
What do you do, sir?
Engineer for St. Joe Hospital Medical Center.
Okay, thank you, sir. 389.
I'm the owner of a small business that is reliant on negotiated sales and bids for our continuance in business, and I'm the person that does those two things.
All right, so if you're not there, then your business,
There's no one there that negotiates or can bid those projects for us.
all right, thank you, sir. 392.
Is 390 okay?
390 is fine, thank you.
I'm a full-time student and the times of trial would conflict with my class schedule.
Thank you. Now, is that 392?
I would like to speak, Your Honor, in private, please.
All right, so 392, you want to speak privately? Thank you. 395.
Your Honor, we're going to be out of town for the first 2 weeks of December. Actually, out of the country.
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else? Counsel, please approach.
Do I need to say again, I will be out of town November 1st. I will be out of town like 3 weeks, out of the country.
All right, so juror 397, you're out of town the first week of November, is that what you said?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
For 3 weeks? Thank you. Anyone else? 394.
I haven't bought the tickets yet, but for the last 12 years, I've always gone to California 10 days before Christmas to visit my children.
That would be starting on December.
That would be around December 15th or 16th. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Juror 394, are you asking to be excused because of that conflict?
It's a concern of mine.
Well,
I haven't bought the tickets yet. It's not set in stone.
is it something that you feel strongly enough about that you want to do this trip starting on December 15th? Thank you. All right, counsel, please approach.
Didn't understand English, but when you brought up vacation, she understood that, didn't she, Judge?
Made it clear she didn't want to be here. All right, let's start with 310. Any objection?
None.
311. She's gone November 17th.
No, none.
312.
None.
314.
No objection.
321. Full-time student.
No.
324.
No objection.
325 is having surgery. 331 has 5 children at home and a vacation starting December 8th. Any objection?
Objection.
341.
No objection.
346.
No.
Real estate agent.
No objection.
361.
No objection.
All right. 355. Her husband's having surgery.
No objection. No objection.
376. That he will be worn out by doing his job in jury service. Any objection?
No objection.
385. Fire alarm security business. Any objection?
No objection.
382.
No objection.
389.
No objection.
390, full-time student.
It was, you said 390?
390.
No objection.
395 will be gone for 2 weeks in December.
No objection.
397 is going to be gone for 3 weeks in November.
No objection.
And 394 wants to go December 15th. Any objection?
No objection.
I didn't have an objection. Any?
Okay.
You said 361, right?
I did. I did. That's it? Okay.
And I guess 392 wants to cut this.
Pardon me?
392 had an issue, right? And this
But wanted a chance to check into it. All right. Same procedure. The following jurors are excused from further participation in the jury selection process for this case. Again, please remain seated until I have called the number of all jurors to be excused. 310, 311, 312, 314, 321, 324, 325, 331, 341, 346, 361, 355, 376, 385, 382, 389, 390, 395, 397, 394. Thank you all for being here. You are excused. All right, those of you who are still here, at this time, I'm going to ask that you go downstairs to complete a juror questionnaire. I'd like to give you some instructions about that process. The juror questionnaire is rather lengthy, but it is very important that you read it carefully and answer the questions as fully as you can. There are 3 pages of instructions, including a summary of facts. So I'm going to ask that you read it very carefully before you begin to answer the questions on the juror questionnaire. When you have finished the juror questionnaire, hand it to staff, and they will give you a piece of paper that has a date on which you should return. If for some reason that date doesn't work for you, you need to let us know right away so that we can give you a different date. All right? And then we will expect you to return at that time. Now, I told you earlier that if you were selected as a juror, there would be some rules you would have to follow. And because you are still here, those rules apply to you starting right now. There is an admonition that is contained on page 6 of your juror questionnaire. It is also written on the piece of paper that you will be given that has the date on which you should return. It's very important that you follow this admonition starting immediately. I'm going to read that admonition to you. As members of this sworn jury panel, you have the duty and obligation to follow this most important court order. Do not communicate with or provide any information to anyone by any means about this case. You may not use any electronic device or media, such as a telephone, cell phone, smartphone, iPhone, BlackBerry, or computer, the internet, any internet service, or any text or instant messaging service, or any internet chat room, blog, or website such as Facebook, MySpace, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter, to communicate to anyone any information about this case or to conduct any research about this case until you have been excused as a potential juror. While you can tell others you are on a jury panel and what the schedule is, you cannot discuss anything about the case or your questionnaire. Are there any questions about the admonition? And again, you must avoid all media coverage of this case between now and when you return. Any questions? All right, jurors 392 and 393, are you still here? All right, you wanted to speak privately, so remain in the courtroom. Everyone else, you are free to go. Follow the bailiff downstairs. All right, juror 392, please stay in the courtroom. 393, if you would wait outside, we will call you in shortly. Record will show the jury panel has left the courtroom except for juror 392. All right, juror 392, you wanted to speak privately, sir. This is as private as it gets.
Currently, I am unemployed and I am seeking employment. I was just relieved of duty a week ago.
All right.
And I feel that staying here on this jury, although I know it is my civic duty, would harbor my chances of gaining employment. So therefore, I was going to ask to be excused.
Thank you, sir. Counsel, please approach. Any objection?
No.
Juror 392, you are excused. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you very much.
$393. Record will show the presence of juror 393. Sir, you wanted to speak privately.
Yeah. I have a problem to read English 100%. You know, some are charging special company, plus I have my own business after work.
All right.
To read 100% English would be a problem.
All right, so you believe that the schedule for the trial poses a problem for you in terms of your work schedule?
Yeah, because I have my own business too.
And you have your own business. You're asking to be excused?
Yes, please.
Counsel, please approach. Any objection?
None.
Okay, thank you. Juror 393, you are excused. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, counsel, we need to stay on the record for just a moment. The judicial assistant just informed me that she wrote down the wrong juror number for the individual who called this morning and said that he or she could not be impartial. It could have been juror 83, not juror 3. So it's juror 83 will be excused, not juror 3. Any objection or issue with that?
No.
None, Your Honor.
All right, so it's 83, not 3. 3 is still on the list.
83, 68, and 88 then.
Correct. 83, 68, and 88 are excused, and juror 3 is back on your list.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
Not for me.
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll let you know, and the questionnaires are copied. All right, thank you.
Tomorrow?
Yes, 8:30 tomorrow.